hi, hello, and welcome. I'm Court. This is Reading with Court, and I'm here to talk to you about my 10 before the end. This is a concept that I have seen around and it's what are the 10 books that you feel that you need to read before the end of the year? I will most likely read way more than these 10 books, but it's nice to have a starting point so that when I'm making TBRs in November and December, I can be like, I should probably pick those 10 books that I wanted to hit before the end of the year. Breaking down my list in terms of statistics, I have 10 books, have 4 sequels, and 6 standalones or series starts, depending on what books they are. 4 sequels are all authors I've read from before. Of the 6 standalones, 4 of the books that I have selected are by authors I have never read from before. I've heard good things about them, and there's 2 authors that I have read from prior. I'm very excited about those 2 because they're 2 authors that, one, I have really gotten into their work this year, and the other is one I've loved for a while. But let's get into what these books are. We are going to start with my 4 sequels or continuations. The first sequel on my list is not even out yet. It's coming out November 18th, and that is Brimstone by Callie Hart. I have this pre-ordered, so I'll be getting it either on release day or shortly after. But this is book 2 in the Fae and Alchemy series. I'm looking over here because I have the synopsis up. Cerys Fane doesn't want power. The very last thing she needs is her name whispered on an entire court's lips. But now that she's been crowned Queen of the Blood Court, she's discovering that a queen's life is not her own. A heavy weight rests upon her shoulders. Her ward and her brother need her back in her homeland, but the changes that have strengthened Cerys have also made her weak. Born under blazing suns, Cerys will surely die if she makes her way home through the Quicksilver, which means that once again she must send someone else in her stead. Keep your mouth shut, stick to the shadows, and for the love of all 7 gods, do not crack any jokes. Kingfisher of the Aegon Gate has defeated armies and survived all manner of horrors, but traveling back to Zilverin with Carrie and Swift might just be the death of him. The male just will not shut up. Hidden dangers await them down the narrow alleyways of the Silver City. Unfolding secrets pose impossible threats. Fisher must wrangle the smuggler and accomplish his goals quickly if he wants to see his mate again. I'm very excited about reading this. Quicksilver was one of my best books of the year so far. I'm looking forward to reading more of this world and seeing what comes next. Following in the trend of new releases that follow my best books of the year, we have The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen. This is the second book in the Crucible trilogy, and this just came out. It's clearly New Kid on the Block energy still. The Games Gods Play was about the Olympian gods all picked a human champion to figure out who was going to rule Olympus from that point on, and no spoilers. But the synopsis of book 2 is short and sweet. She has won the games of the gods. Can she stand against the Titans? Lyra may have survived the Crucible, but now she faces an even more dangerous test. A deadly race against time begins in Tartarus. The games continue in the thrilling and highly anticipated follow-up to the best-selling romantasy The Games Gods Play. Welcome to Tartarus. I really like that there's not much to go on there, because I am very excited to read this, and I want to go see it sooner rather than later. I am looking forward to reading this because I devoured The Games Gods Play in no time at all. I think I read the bulk of it in one sitting. It's a pretty long book. It was a very quick read. I expect the sequel to go along the same lines. My other sequel is one that I own, and that is Mate by Ali Hazelwood. Earlier this year, I read Bride, which I got from Aardvark, and then I got Mate from Aardvark as well. A human hybrid and an alpha were claw against the bonds of fate in the highly anticipated companion novel to the New York Times best-selling Bride. Serena Paris is orphaned, packless, and one of a kind. Coming forward as the first human were hybrid was supposed to heal a centuries-long rift between species. Instead, it made her a target. Prey to the ruthless political machinations between wares, vampires, and humans. With her enemies closing in on her, she has only one option left, if he'll have her. As Elf of the Northwest Pack, Cohen Alexander commands obedience. His author is so his authority is so absolute, only a fool would threaten his mate. It doesn't matter if Serena doesn't reciprocate his feelings, nothing will stop him from keeping her safe. But power-hungry vampires and wares are not the only threats chasing Serena. Sooner or later, her past is bound to catch up with her, and Cohen might be the only thing standing between her and total annihilation. When I read Bride, I predicted that something with these two was going to be that second book. I am very excited to see what happens in this world and to keep exploring it further. Next is a bit of a cheating answer. I am putting the remainder of the Throne of Glass series as my final continuation. Do I think this is doable? Absolutely not. Because as of right now, I have Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. That is roughly 3,000 pages just in those books, not factoring in anything else I read or wanted to read. Do I think I will finish the series this year? No. Do I think I can read one or two more books in the series and start next year with less on the list? Yes. That part I think is definitely doable. So, if you don't know, Throne of Glass is technically a 7-book series with a book of novellas that follow Selena Sardothian. She has a fancy name later on that I'm not going to get into because it's a spoiler. But you're following the story of her, a prince, a knight, and more characters that get added as time goes on. And I've had a blast every time that I have sat down and read one of these books. None of them were hard to read. I loved them. They are very long. And I'm not always the best with something that is a terribly long read. I am hoping that I can at least get through Queen of Shadows and Empire of Storms in 2025. And maybe start Tower of Dawn and have that be one of my earliest reads of 2026. Because finishing this series was my year-long goal. And I am not succeeding. I'm hoping you make a dent and get close and finish the series in early 2026. Next, we are going to move on to the books that I want to read that are standalones. There are 6. I own 5 of them physically, and 1 will be an ebook. Well, Actually by Maisie Eddings. This is the Owl Crate Romance Edition. I'm very excited about this book. I owned 2 copies of it because I also got it through Aardvark when I read the description the first time. And I was like, oh, this sounds like a book for me. And then it showed up through Owl Crate, and I was like, well, I guess it's definitely a book for me. This is fate saying that it needs to be read. You can see by the cover and everything that this is a very fall book. Eva Kitt never expected to be the host of Sausage Talk, interviewing B-list celebrities over wieners instead of pursuing the journalism career she dreamed of. When Eva publicly calls out her college ex for ghosting her, her video goes viral. It doesn't help that said ex is Riley Cooper, a beloved social media personality who has built a platform on teaching men how to be decent partners by, quote, deconstructing toxic masculinity, end quote. Now, Eva's forced to confront him on a live episode of Sausage Talk, where Riley makes her a deal. Allow him to take her on a series of dates to make up for his toxic behavior, then debrief them all on his channel. Eva refuses to play nice, but agrees to the deal to further her own career, and continue defaming Riley's good name. But when these manufactured dates start to feel real, Eva has to wonder if the boy who broke her heart has become the man who might heal it. So this is obviously a romance. It looks like it's going to be not enemies to lovers, but like snark and sass and everything in between in this book. I love that. I'm very excited to explore these characters and their dynamic and watch them roast each other, or even her roasting him. We'll find out when I read it, and I'm hoping to somehow get it on my TV before November. Up next is another book that I own, and that is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. Arcana Academy came out in July of this year, and I fully planned on reading it in July of this year. It was the Not So Indie Archive pick for that month or August or one of the two. I planned on reading it, and then when I got my hands on it, she was 600 something pages. I did not have the stamina in July, August, or September to read a book this chunky. But I'm finally starting to get my mojo back. I'm recovering from my burnout. Things are settling down. I never necessarily slumped, but there was definitely some life burnout that was affecting my desire to do pretty much anything. And thankfully, I'm coming out from the other side of that stronger than ever. Clara Greysword has survived the underworld of Eclipse City through thievery, luck, and a whole lot of illegal magic. After a job gone awry, Clara is sentenced to a lifetime in prison for inking tarot cards, a rare power reserved for practitioners at the elite Arcana Academy. Just when it seems her luck has run dry, the Academy's enigmatic headmaster, Prince Kalis, offers her an escape. For a price. Kalis believes that Clara is the perfect tool to help him steal a tarot card from the king and use it to recreate an all-powerful card long lost to time. In order to conceal her identity and keep her close, Kalis brings Clara to Arcana Academy, introducing her as the newest first-year student and his bride-to-be. Thrust into a world of arcane magic and royal intrigue where one misstep will send her back to prison, or worse, Clara finds that the prince she swore to hate may not be what he seems. But can she risk giving him power over the world and her heart? Or will she take it for herself? Now, this sounds really cool. The magic system in this, I'm really excited to see exactly what we're getting into. And to dive into a romantasy world that I know a lot of my friends have been loving. I'm hoping to get to this one very, very soon. Up next, we have another contemporary romance. This one has been recommended by a lot of people that I know, and I'm excited to finally get into it and explore the world. Funny enough, I owned book 2 before book 1, so I needed to get book 1 in order to do the thing. That is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So I owned Yours Truly after a wild bet, gourmet grilled cheese sandwich, and cuddle with a baby goat. Alexis Montgomery has had her world turned upside down. The cause? Daniel Grant, a ridiculously hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her and as casual as they come. The complete opposite of sophisticated city girl Alexis. And yet, their chemistry is undeniable. Of course it is. While her ultra-wealthy parents want her to carry on the family legacy of world-renowned surgeons, Alexis doesn't need glory or fame. She's fine with being a mere ER doctor. And every minute she spends with Daniel and the tight-knit town where he lives, she's discovering just what's really important. Yet letting their relationship become anything more than a short-term fling would mean turning her back on her family and giving up the opportunity to help thousands of people. Bringing Daniel into her world is impossible, and yet she can't just give up the joy she's found with him either. With so many differences between them, how can Alexis possibly choose between her world and his? I think someone said it's like Little Mermaid, kind of. And I have a feeling that the way I've heard this book talked about, I will read this one and then dive right into the others. This is my last book on the standalone list that is from a new author. And that is Kiss of the Basilisk by Lindsay Straub. Now, this book has been described to me as unhinged, and I am more than okay with that. I love a good unhinged story. This one is not for everyone, but I do think it's going to be for me. 20-year-old Temperance Varys has never been kissed, but that's what the basilisk is for. Along with 13 other contestants, Tem must train with a basilisk to learn the power of seduction and win the prince's hand in marriage. When Tem is matched with Caspin, the Serpent King, she realizes she might actually stand a chance. But with tensions rising between the basilisks and the humans, Tem is suddenly torn in two directions. As her bond with Caspin deepens, so does her connection with the prince. When she uncovers a terrible secret about the royal family, Tem finds herself caught between two worlds, neither of which she can survive without. I've been trying to read this book for months. It's not that I've been avoiding it or I'm dreading it or anything like that. I just have not gotten around to it. I am technically doing a buddy read of this with Katie from I Would Rather Be Reading, but she has already DNF'd the book. I need to read it and share my thoughts because this was like months ago, like May or June, I think. It's kind of rude of me to have not actually done that yet this year. I need to get to this for her sake because I want to show her I am not a horrible buddy read partner. I just suck at commitments. But I am excited to see how crazy it gets. Moving into authors I've read from before, I want to read Neon Gods by Katee Robert. This is the start of Katie's Dark Olympus series. Dark Olympus is part of my Herkyed challenge for this year. I have read from Katee before. I have read and own all 6 of the Wicked Villains books and have been considering rereading them because I was missing her writing. I figure if I miss her writing so badly, why not start the series that I put on my priority list? He was supposed to be a myth, but from the moment I crossed the river Styx and fell under his dark spell, he was quite simply mine. Society darling Persephone Demetriou plans to escape the ultra-modern city of Olympus and start over far from the backstabbing politics of the 13 houses. But that's all ripped away when her mother ambushes her with an engagement to Zeus, the dangerous power behind their glittering city's dark facade. With no options left, Persephone flees to the forbidden Undercity and makes a devil's bargain with a man she once believed a myth. A man who awakens her to a world she never knew existed. Hades has spent his life in shadows, and he has no intention of stepping into the light. But when he finds that Persephone can offer a little slice of the revenge he spent years craving, it's all the excuse he needs to help her. For a price. Every breathless night spent tangled together has given Hades a taste for Persephone, and he'll go to war with Olympus itself to keep her close. And then the tagline here is a modern retelling of Hades and Persephone that's as sinful as it is sweet. Katee Robert writes some darn good books. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. She's good at what she does. I'm very excited to explore it and get hooked in the world. Knowing how I am with her writing, I will probably be jumping very quickly through this series once I get it started. Now, for book 10, I do not own it physically, but it is from an author I have read from before, and that is Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. This was actually the first Chuck Tingle book that I heard about when I was reading. A searing and earnest horror debut about the demons the queer community faces in America, the price of keeping secrets, and finding the courage to burn it all down. They'll scare you straight to hell. Welcome to Neverton, Montana, home to a God-fearing community with a heart of gold. Nestled high up in the mountains is Camp Damascus, the self-proclaimed most effective gay conversion camp in the country. Here, a life free from sin awaits, but the secret behind that success is anything but holy. Now, this sounds like it's going to be a darn good time. Don't get me wrong, not a good time in the way of, like, cheering for what's happening or anything, but that's not the point. I've read 2 Chuck Tingle books, and I very much enjoyed the societal narrative of both of them. And I think this is going to be a lot of the same. This is on Kindle Unlimited, and I do plan on reading it. It's a priority for me right now, because I read Bury Your Gaze in August. I read Lucky Day like a week ago, and I think I have this and maybe one more before I've read all of his horror stuff. And I probably am going to end up trying to buy this book once I read it and just build my own little Chuck Tingle collection. We've got 10 before the end that I want to read, if you include the fact that I could technically be ambitious and want to read all of Throne of Glass. It's the 13 before the end. But for the sake of trendy sounds, we're doing 10 before the end. Let me know what are some of the books that you have on your want to read list for the end of this year. Do we share any of the same books? Have you read any of the books on my list? What are your thoughts? If you've made it this far and want to leave a comment but don't have anything to say, leave a flowery rose emoji for all the decoration on the Kiss of the Basilisk book. I will see you next time, and have a happy time zone.